I never imagined my financial model would lead to a 12M audit error that changed everything. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. Panic sank deep in my gut like a stone. I could still hear the sound of my heart pounding in my ears as the numbers twisted like a knife in my mind. Months of worno, years. All shredded in an instant. I sat there in my tiny, cluttered office, the walls too close, the air too thick. My trembling hands hovered over the keyboard as the screen flickered, each line of red telling me I had done the unthinkable. Voices echoed in my head. My mentors, soft and encouraging, "You can do this." My father's dream for me, heavy on my shoulders, "Make something of yourself." Each thought turned sour, accusing me as I stared into the abyss of my mistake. But why? Why didn't anyone see it coming? The figures danced before my eyes, mocking me. It felt like an ominous storm cloud hanging above. The coffee pot gurgled in the background, a distant reminder of life continuing outside my walls while I crumbled inside. I could almost hear the whispers of coworkers, doubt creeping into their voices. "She's always been too ambitious." Just when I thought I would suffocate under the weight of it all, my phone buzzed. A message from Jenna, my closest friend, filled with excitement about her new promotion. I couldn't help but smile at her joy, even as I cringed at the irony. Her success felt like a dagger. The office party was only days away. How could I face them? Then, out of the blue, a call. "We need to talk," the voice said, cold and calculated. "This is bigger than you think." My stomach dropped. What could be bigger than a colossal error? My breath quickened. The stakes were rising, tension so thick it felt like I could cut it with a knife. I could see it now, a dark shadow looming over my career. As the call ended, my mind raced. Did I betray their trust? Was I merely a scapegoat for something much larger, something unseen? A creepy chill ran down my spine. I wanted to scream, to run, but I couldn't. I was trapped, and then it hit me, a thought so chilling it stole the breath right from my lungs. What if this was no accident? What if someone wanted this to happen? The walls closed in, and I felt the stirrings of a deeper conspiracy. Fingers hovering over the keyboard again, my heart raced with fear and determination. I needed to unravel this mystery. I had to find the truth before it consumed me. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, each hum echoing my heart's erratic rhythm as I sat alone in the office past hours, the world outside fading into the dusk. The shadows lengthened across my desk, a gravity settling in, thick as fog. I closed my eyes, inhaling the scent of burnt coffee mingled with desperation. The soothing voice of my mentor rekindled hope in my mind, anchoring me for just a moment. I stood, pacing, the floor beneath me creaking softly, as if echoing my own turmoil. Outside, I could see the silhouettes of colleagues heading home, laughter drifting through the thin walls. Their lives were normal, uncomplicated. I glanced again at my phone, an unease prickling my skin as if I were being watched. I had to get to the bottom of this. Grabbing my jacket, I decided to leave and take a walk. The night air enveloped me, sharp and invigorating, pulling me out of the stifling cocoon of my office. Each step felt purposeful, a determined march toward clarity. On the corner, an elderly man sat on a bench with a cardboard cup of coffee, his fingers trembling. I stopped, rummaging through my bag for the few dollars I had left. Handing him the small stack, our eyes met. "Thank you, young lady," he said, his smile warm and genuine, brightening the chill of the evening. "You're already richer than you know." His words settled in my heart like a balm. Maybe life wasn't all about numbers, about profit or loss. Perhaps moments like these, where kindness broke through chaos, were worth more than I realized. Yet, as I continued my walk, reminding myself of that kindness, anxiety knotted my stomach again. The office party loomed closer, and every obligatory invitation felt like shackles locking me to the dread of potential judgment. I saw Jenna's text pop up again, "Can't wait to celebrate together." A pang of bitterness tugged at me. To put on a brave face, to lock away my catastrophes for a night of cheer sounded insurmountable. The idea of pretending, of helping others toast to achievements while my own life lay in ruins, made my chest tighten in despair. Then, my phone buzzed again, but this time it was a notification from the finance app one hadn't touched in a week. Curiosity piqued, I clicked it open. A series of transactions glared at me, discrepancies so glaring they seemed to flash like warning lights. Someone was moving money, the kind of movement that would leave tracks if anyone cared to look closely enough. Before I could process the implications, another message slipped into my inbox. It was from an unknown number, ominously simple: "Stop digging. You don't want to know what you'll find." The words thrummed in my veins, sending adrenaline coursing. Each beat of my heart echoed the threat, motivating me with a growing sense of urgency. If this was connected to my errors, the stakes were higher than I anticipated. Was I merely a pawn in a more elaborate game? A shadow passed over my shoulder. I spun around to find Keith, the company's security officer, observing me with a knowing gaze. His presence stirred a mix of suspicion and hope. Perhaps he could help. "Everything okay, Claire?" he asked, a hint of concern in his voice. "Not really," I admitted, an unexpected wave of vulnerability washing over me. I think I'm in over my head." He stepped forward, a slight frown creasing his brow. "You can trust me. If something's off, we can take a closer look, together." Hope flickered in the shadows of uncertainty as I considered his words. What if he could help me find the truth? Yet, I hesitated, feeling the weight of the world compressing on my shoulders. Did I dare to involve him? Just then, my phone buzzed again, this time vibrating uncontrollably as a rapid series of alerts flooded my screen. My heart dropped as the messages unveiled a new layer to the darkness I was wading through. Each notification was a scathing reminder that the audit error was no longer a professional bruising but something much more sinister. "See you at the party," Jenna had sent, oblivious to the chaos building in my world. And that was when I noticed it, the last notification, tauntingly unread. With trembling hands, I opened it and gasped, my breath hitching as I processed the name that glared back at me, a name I never expected to see intertwined with my unraveling chaos. The crisp night air, which had initially felt refreshing, now wrapped around me like a suffocating blanket. I stood frozen in place, staring at the message on my screen, its words burning into my mind, echoing every fear that had taken root in my heart. Mark Turner. A name that should have been washed away in the sediment of my past, but here it was, resurrected like a phantom demanding attention. I blinked hard, willing it all to be an error, a prank, something other than the reality it was. Mark had once been a colleague, a part of the fabric of our office life. But he was gone now, having made choices that spiraled him into disgrace. Choices that almost buried me alive, too, in their wake. The cold realization struck harder than any winter breeze. Mark's departure had felt like a ghost town after a once buzzing carnival, leaving behind hollow echoes and unanswered questions like the ones lingering in my mind now. How was his name, alongside my audit error, becoming a dark thread weaving together the tapestry of this dilemma? I looked up, expecting Keith's gaze to feel supportive, maybe even empathetic. Instead, I found him watching me like a game of chess played between two enemies, a calculation behind his concern. The moment felt surreal as the old wounds of trust punched at my gut. "You know who he is, don't you?" I asked, the tremor in my voice betraying the steel I tried to harden. Keith hesitated. "I know his reputation, and I know he likely didn't walk away from this clean," he said slowly, choosing his words with care. "But the question is, Claire, are you implying there's a connection?" With his eyes locked to mine, the intensity of his scrutiny made my pulse race. I wanted to scream that I was not just another pawn, that I was worth more than being tangled in someone else's mess. But I swallowed that pride. Fear crept in instead, like smoke curling around an almost extinguished flame. Something is wrong. The discrepancies. I need to know how deep this runs, I admitted, trying to rein in the panic. But I could tell by the way Keith shifted his weight that his instinct to protect the company was waging war against his desire to help me. Then you need to be careful. There are people, many more, who are involved. People who wouldn't think twice about silencing you if you dig too deep. His words hung between us, a haunting melody that amplified my anxiety. Are you saying I should just back off? Let it go? Let someone else carry this weight? I snapped, the fight rising within me. No, Claire, he countered, his voice softer, demanding my attention. I'm saying you need to go about this the right way. There's a way to handle things without being exposed to danger. I felt a flicker of hope, interwoven with threads of apprehension. The night around us shifted, darkening further as clouds rolled in to veil the moon. I glanced back at my phone, remembering the warmth of the stranger's smile from earlier, the small moment of unselfish kindness that now felt like a distant dream. Let's go back inside. We can talk more, where it's safe, Keith suggested, his demeanor shifting as if he'd thought it through. Unexpectedly, I felt a strange rush of trust in him. Maybe it was the intensity of the situation, or simply the longing to settle my stormy spirit. Either way, I found my feet moving toward the illuminated entrance, but as we stepped over the threshold, the cheerful ambience of our office party swelled around us, clashing violently with the turmoil inside. Faces sparkled with laughter and festive cheer, glasses clinked, rainbows of balloons adorned the ceiling, yet it all felt hollow, like decorations masking fragile lives. Claire! You made it! Jenna's voice sliced through the noise as she danced up to us, her twinkling eyes bright against the bleak backdrop of my thoughts. You look amazing. Come join us. My heart raced even in the midst of that moment. I could feel the pressure building like a bubble on the verge of bursting. I nodded numbly, forcing a smile as Jenna pulled me into the fray, away from the potential storm that loomed in the uncertainty of my confrontation with Keith. As we mingled, laughter surrounded me, buoying but simultaneously isolating me more than any empty office could. Glances passed between colleagues, whispers flowed like ink on fragile parchment, but the moment I caught a sidelong glance from Mark's former confidant, Karen, my breath hitched. She had a history with him, an inkling of the turmoil he had left behind when he vanished. Hi, Claire. She greeted, her smile slipping ever so slightly as she caught sight of my strained demeanor. Busy season treating you okay? Just behind her, I could see Jenna waving at someone across the room, distracted. Yeah, just catching up on things, I replied, but I could tell it wasn't the answer she truly wanted. As she stepped closer, lowering her voice, I braced myself. I've heard things about Mark, she whispered, concern etched across her face. There it was again, the name I didn't want to hear, but I couldn't turn away. It felt like the gaping mouth of a void, demanding my attention, dragging me closer to its depths. Things? What things? I pressed, desperate for something to hold on to, a light through the suffocating darkness. But instead, her expression hardened, and the air seemed to thicken between us. In that instant, everything shifted and intimacy built on secrets loomed. Suddenly, Jenna returned, a mask of excitement over her face, and Karen shrugged, retreating back into the crowd, leaving me hanging on her words with no resolve. As I felt the chaos swirl around, a revelation hit me. This was bigger than a simple audit error or personal struggles. I felt like I'd stumbled upon a dam about to break, water pooling at its base for too long. And as Jenna's laughter echoed around me, I looked back over my shoulder, heart heavy with uncertainty, and met Keith's eyes across the room. He understood. He knew. The ticking clock of revelation now loomed larger than the balloons overhead, tightening with an almost violent intensity. And deep down, I knew I had to decide, was I prepared to confront the truth, no matter how painful it might be? In that moment, I felt a shift in the air, a dark warning whispered through the vibrant celebration. Something was unraveling, and I could either stand there and drown in it or take a leap of faith into the unknown. But as my instincts roared to life, a new message pinged in my pocket. My heart raced as I prepared for the words to change everything once again. You have 1 week, it read. Proceed at your own risk. The world faded, lights dimming, as a single truth illuminated my path. If I didn't act now, I might lose everything: hope, trust, and myself in the process. The clamor of laughter faded into a distant hum as I stood frozen, staring at the new message on my phone, its words screaming louder than the festive chaos that swirled around me. You have 1 week. My heart thudded against my ribcage, a frantic prisoner desperate for release. Could this be the same phantom as Mark, creeping insidiously back into my life, demanding homage? Jenna pulled me into a lively twirl, her laughter bright and infectious, yet it felt like shards of glass piercing through an aloof veil of joy. She spun away, completely unaware of the tempest raging within me as Keith's disapproving gaze still lingered at the edge of the gathering, the weight of his warning echoing in the recesses of my mind. Keep smiling. It's a party, she urged, her radiant call reaching deep into a pocket of resentment and fear I couldn't seem to shake off. I plastered on a smile, attempting to blend back into the carefree essence of the celebration. But in that fleeting moment of distraction, clarity pierced through, an unexpected flicker of determination ignited. I wasn't just a pawn in someone else's game. I had to wrest back the narrative from its sinister grip. Deciding to make my way to the bar, I maneuvered past the animated clusters of colleagues, making sure to subtly avoid Karen in case she should offer me a voice on Mark, a subject I was both compelled by and repulsed by. The bartender, a gentle-faced stranger with kind blue eyes, met my gaze as I approached. What can I get for you? He asked, mirroring a sincerity that felt refreshing in that winding sea of pretense. A ginger ale, please, I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. I needed to keep my wits about me, especially if secrets were brewing in the shadows, waiting to spring up like weeds. Coming right up, he said with a smile before handing me the drink. And don't forget to enjoy. There's so much to celebrate. Somewhere deep in my gut, I felt layers of reality peel back like an onion, revealing distressing truths. Do you ever feel like the party is just a facade? I asked, my boldness surprised even myself. I rarely let vulnerable thoughts slip so free. The bartender's smile faltered, but then transformed into something almost sympathetic. Sometimes, it is, but joy has a way of finding us if we let it. He tucked a loose strand of dark hair behind his ear. So, you enjoy those little moments like this drink. Keep it close. His words hung in the air, piercing through the celebratory echoes surrounding us. I nodded, the brief encounter wrapping around me like a comforting cloak despite its temporary nature. From afar, I caught Keith's eye again. The look he bore this time was different, determined. My breath caught when he gestured for me to join him. The universe seemed to conspire against me as reluctance quailed in my stomach. The message loomed over us as a shadow, and I could sense the impending storm. Everything okay? He asked, concern slipping into the crack of his voice. Not quite, I admitted, the weight of my worries spilling out before I could rein them in. Did you hear what Karen said? I did, but the details don't concern me as much as your safety, he replied, his tone firm but laced with something almost protective. I could feel the tension flicker like static between us. I can't just ignore this, Keith. I can't ignore what I've stumbled upon in these discrepancies and the very real chance that something much bigger is at stake. His dark brows knit together as he leaned closer, lowered voice filled with urgency. You're right, but this is a dangerous path, Claire. You don't know who you're dealing with, and Mark isn't a name to take lightly. A jolt shivered through my spine, a warning ringing true. But there was an undeniable pull urging me forward. You mentioned careful, Chris, I pressed, my voice lifting in the suspense of its own conviction. What does that even entail? I can't let my career crumble because of this. For a moment, silence enveloped us. I peered into the depths of his eyes, seeking a glimpse of solidarity, a candle in the pervading darkness. Meet me after the party. There's more I haven't told you, he said finally, his voice a low promise entwined with caution. Before I could respond, Jenna leapt into our orbit, her buoyancy brightening the atmosphere once more with a barrage of excitement. Keith, come dance. She cheered, pulling him into the whirl of laughter. As I stood watching them twirl away, my heart raced. The walls felt like they were closing in, yet hope surged amidst the dense fog of uncertainty. Maybe, just maybe, this chaos could weave a different narrative if only I learned how to navigate it. The night wore on, yet my mind was no longer encapsulated in mere celebrations. The outgoing laughter dimmed, replaced by the urgency to gear up for a steep climb ahead. Taking a deep breath, I gripped my glass tightly, the bartender's words echoing within each gulp of ginger ale tasted imbued with courage. But just as I prepared to leave the hubbub of the party, another message pinged in my pocket. Glancing down, the fabric of my resolve threatened to unravel. The words chilled my heart to its core. Mark is back. He's close. You don't want to see what's next. The party continued in its oblivious state, but my world disrupted into chaos, stringing together the horror of my past with an ominous present. The shadows darkened, and I knew as my chest tightened my reckoning was near. The stakes were rising higher, and as I cast one final look at the laughter swirling like a double-edged sword, I felt the pull of betrayal lurking. I had to find a way to turn the tide. Would my daring pursuit of truth come at the price of everything I held dear? As I braced myself for the impending storm, the closing line of my fate flickered before me, a single light against the mounting darkness. I needed to prepare, for the clock was ticking, and in less than a week, everything could change. As the night wore on, the atmosphere of the party took on an almost oppressive weight. Laughter mingled with melodic tunes, yet to me, it felt like a distant echo, like waves crashing against a shore that I no longer felt tethered to. I clutched my drink, its chilly surface almost soothing against my skin, yet the fire inside me flickered dangerously. Moving through the crowd felt mechanical, I could barely register the faces of friends and colleagues. Each smile, each sound, seemed to peel layer after layer off my resolve, exposing vulnerable parts one thought I had buried deep. My thoughts danced between memories of Mark, the bittersweetness of nostalgia laced with the sharp sting of fear and the chilling warning of the recent message that wrapped around my heart like barbed wire, while Jenna twirled with Keith, radiating the kind of joy that was almost intoxicating. I felt stagnant. Should I confront Keith about meeting after the party? Would he share enough to help me feel less helpless? My heart sank as I weighed my options. Just as I decided to step back and give myself a moment, the bartender noticed my distracted demeanor again. Hey, he said, leaning against the bar as if he were number one in the world to me. You look like you've got a lot on your mind. I hesitated, my supper clenching tightly. Common sense urged me to keep my problems secret, but the sincerity in his gaze, mixed with an inexplicable warmth, encouraged sharing. Just things, I replied, struggling for the right words. The kind of things that seem to chase you down like shadows and refuse to let you go. He nodded knowingly, his eyes softening. You know, sometimes the shadows are cast by places where the light has yet to reach. Find where the light is. It will make all the difference. He took a brief pause, a shadow of understanding passing across his features. You've got more strength in you than you realize. His words were small but potent, somehow igniting a flicker of hope in me. It felt as though, through this stranger, the universe whispered a promise of resilience that I desperately needed. I managed a grateful smile before stepping away, searching for a quiet corner to gather my thoughts. The clock's ticking felt louder as I found myself at the back of the venue, a space nearly detached from the party's ebullience. Here, I could breathe, if only just for a moment. My phone buzzed again, another message. More dread settled in my gut as I opened it, my eyes widening at the words, "Time is running out." He nosed. I barely had a moment to process this before a familiar voice called out from behind me. Claire. Jenna's labored breath broke through my moment of solitude, worry lining her brow. There you are. I thought I lost you to the party. She stepped closer, concern clouding her typically vibrant features. You seemed so distant. Are you sure you're okay? For a heartbeat, I wrestled with the truth. Surely, this celebration deserved a little fiba denial of the storm brewing just outside our laughter. Yeah, just a lot on my mind, I finally said, forcing a lightness to my tone. It felt like adding weight to a sinking ship. Don't let it overshadow the fun. How about we dance? She suggested, her hand reaching out, filled with genuine friendship. It was hard to ignore the kindness that radiated from her. Yet inside, a battle raged. The darkness latched onto my heart, warning me that there was much more to lose than I could ever gain from simply dancing. Just as I shifted to respond, Keith rounded the corner, his expression etched with urgency. Claire, we need to talk. Now, the world around us seemed to blur as I stepped closer to him, the reality pulling taut around us. Jenna glanced between us, a frown pressing against her features. Is everything all right? She murmured, her voice layered with concern. Yeah, just a quick thing, you'll be back in a sec. I rushed out, not meeting her eyes as I followed Keith away from the bright music and laughter, stepping into an unlit hallway where the noise dulled into silence. Listen, he started, his words laced with gravity, it's worse than I thought. Mark, he's involved in something much more dangerous than I can handle alone. My pulse quickened, the fear awakening every nerve. What do you mean? I stammered, feeling the walls of our private conversation close in like a suffocating embrace. I have some leads, but I can't go public without verifying things. And honestly, Claire, you might be a target. Everyone is connected, and some of those connections are blacker than I realized. My breath hitched. The warnings echoed in my mind, and as fears flooded in, an unsettling truth crystallized. Are you saying I'm being watched? Keith nodded slowly, his confusion shifting to resolve. We need to act fast. If he knows you're onto something, it puts you in the line of fire. The reality of his words settled heavy on my shoulders, like chains of fate pulling me deeper into a labyrinth where hope was just a flickering flame in the distance. And just then, the floor beneath me felt dangerously unsteady. What do we do? His gaze faltered for a moment. We need to find evidence, something to prove the claims. And we need to do it before the week is up. My stomach twisted as the pressure of time converged around us like a storm cloud threatening to burst. The stakes had escalated beyond what I could comprehend. Then we have to start now. Before he could respond, I felt the unmistakable pulse of my phone, an incoming call. The screen lit up with a name I hadn't seen in years. The very name that had haunted my dreams. Mark. A sudden chill ran through me as I looked to Keith, my heart pounding like a frantic drummer inside my chest. It's him. What do I do? A flicker of fear crossed Keith's face, mirrored by my own rising dread as I contemplated answering. Would this be the tipping point? Would the shadows finally engulf me, or could this be the moment where light broke through? Time dimmed, the air thickening with decision, as I slowly reached for the call, adrenaline driving my fingers. But a single thought loomed larger than any other. Did I really want to open that door again? The call lingered in the air, a gaping chasm filled with memories too raw to confront. I could feel Keith's eyes upon me, waiting for a response that would either tether me to the past or sever the few threads of safety that remained intact. My heart raced, caught between fear and a morbid curiosity. What would Mark say? Would he apologize, or would his words slither under my skin like a parasite? I took a shaky breath, the screen pulsating with his name of a time when everything felt uncomplicated. What the hell do I do, Keith? My voice trembled, betraying just how fragile my composure had become. Don't answer it. We need to focus, he urged, though the uncertainty in his tone echoed my own doubts. You're already in enough danger. But then, like a flicker of lightning on a dark horizon, a tiny spark ignited deep within me. What if this call was my chance? A chance to understand, to reclaim a part of my past that had been stolen from me by shadows I didn't even know existed. I need to know what he wants, I insisted, the heat of determination pushing aside my reservations. I let the call ring once, twice, and just as my resolve began to waver, I pressed the green button. The moment the familiar voice greeted me, my heart stuttered. Claire? Is that you? The sound of his voice was both balm and blade, cutting into the layers I had built around myself. Mark, I breathed, the name itself tasting foreign on my tongue. Why are you calling? Listen, I know things are complicated. His tone was cautious, and for a fleeting moment, I saw the flicker of the boy I once adored, tangled in the complexities of the man he had become. I need your help. Help? I echoed, incredulity dripping from my voice. After everything, I'm serious. There's something going on, deeper than you think. I can't explain over the phone, but you have to trust me. His words poured out like a desperate plea, begging for belief amid the rubble of our shared history. Keith shifted beside me, tension radiating off him as if he could feel the storm brewing. Claire, hang up. We need a plan. This is not the time. But Mark continued, his voice dropping to a near whisper. Claire, I can't talk here. We're not safe. There are people who are watching you. The words crashed into my mind like a tide pulling me under, drowning me in the weight of impending dread. "What are you talking about?" I demanded, desperation squeezing my throat as thoughts of hidden figures lurking in shadows circled my mind. "Just meet me somewhere safe. I promise, I'll explain everything." As the urgency of his tone hovered thickly in the air, Keith's sharp intake of breath sliced through the moment, pulling my senses back from the brink of panic. I was standing at a precipice, the uncertainty stretching far beneath my feet, where depth met complexity. The decision weighed heavily. I could plunge deeper into this rabbit hole or retreat and protect myself from the chaos of the world I had tried so desperately to escape. "Why now, Mark? Why should I trust you?" I found my voice suddenly steadier, grounded by the fragments of self-preservation bubbling beneath the swirling doubts. "Because I've never stopped caring," he replied, and I could hear the sincerity, almost the remnants of love woven through his words. "And because there's something you have to know. Something that changes everything." The clock in my mind ticked louder, beating back against the need to be swallowed by uncertainty. Keith's hand tightened around my arm, a silent warning. This wasn't just about me anymore, it was about diving headlong into an ocean of dark secrets and lurking dangers that threatened to engulf both my present and my past. "Claire," Keith urged softly, "he can't be trusted. You don't know what he's involved in." "I need to know, Keith." My voice was stronger, aching for answers that had long eluded me. I turned back to the phone, adrenaline coursing through my veins as I exhaled sharply. "Okay, where do we meet?" 15th Avenue Park, tonight. Midnight. Bring no one. Mark, I began, but the line dropped suddenly, rendering my words impotent and futile. In the stillness that followed, I stood frozen, my heart caught between the echoes of decisions past and fears still bubbling in my chest. The weight of Keith's presence beside me anchored a part of my racing thoughts, yet there was also a surge of something else, a flicker of rebellion against the shadows that had loomed too long over my life. "Claire, you can't seriously be considering this," Keith said, his voice gravelly with concern. "I have to," I replied, the resolve blooming in the depths of my fear. "I can't keep running away from him. If there's a chance that this connects back to everything that's gone wrong, then I need to find out what's happening." Keith softened, the warmth of understanding flashing across his features despite the shadows that painted our moment with impending dread. "Just promise me you'll be careful. I'll keep my phone on, I'll check in every hour. If anything feels off, I know. I will." But even as I reassured him, a sense of betrayal tugged at my heart, a painful reminder that I was choosing to step towards the very thing I had tried to escape. As the party noise swelled behind us, laughter and music dimming to a dull roar, I realized the shadows were not just an external threat, they were a part of me now. I was stepping into a darkness that could either cradle the truth or bury me under the weight of my own choices. With the evening passing me by, time seemed to twist grotesquely, each tick of the clock a haunting reminder of the midnight meeting that awaited me. A revelation brewed just out of reach, waiting to spill forth like the tempest swirling inside. As I cast one last glance towards Keith, a chilling fear twisted around my spine, for deep down, I feared that once I opened the Pandora's box of my past, there would be no turning back. I couldn't shake the feeling that my life as I knew it might end tonight, long before the clock struck midnight. As night unfurled over the city, wrapping it in a cloak of darkness, the familiar stretch of asphalt leading to 15th Avenue Park felt like a corridor to an abyss. Each step echoed in my mind, a whisper of doubt clashing with my need for answers. The streetlights flickered overhead, their fragile glow barely penetrating the shadows of looming uncertainty. Why did I agree to this? I muttered to myself, the words both a question and an accusation. But the seed of determination had already taken root, and fear tainted with the thrill of possibility fueled my resolve. I could not turn back now, the past was a nagging specter, and I was finally ready to confront it. As I entered the park, the staccato rhythm of cicadas filled the air, a reminder of life continuing despite the darkness. I scanned the area for Mark, the tension in my shoulders tightening as I anticipated the moment he would materialize from the shadows. They say it's often the silence that speaks loudest, and in the midst of night's stillness, I felt the weight of connection and estrangement luxuriating within the untouched space between us. The moon cast a silver sheen on the ground, illuminating a path ahead that seemed to shimmer in anticipation. Moments stretched, each second pregnant with potential, a silent countdown to our inevitable confrontation. Tension wound around me like an oppressive shroud. And then, I saw him. The silhouette emerged slowly, the familiar shape, broad shoulders, tousled hair seemingly unchanged by the years, yet encased in an unfamiliar air of urgency. When our eyes met, a kaleidoscope of emotions flared within me: anger, confusion, longing, and barely contained fear. "Claire," he called softly, his voice threading through the stillness, unraveling the carefully woven tapestry of distance I had tried to maintain. "You came. I had to." My voice trembled slightly. I scolded myself for letting him see the cracks in my facade. "What's this about, Mark? I deserve answers." He stepped closer, cautious yet determined, the shadows engulfing him in mystery. "I promise there's more going on here than you realize. I'm not just here to reconnect. You need to know the truth about what happened." As the words slipped from his lips, my guard went up. "What do you mean, what happened?" The defensiveness was natural, instinctual. Every fiber of my being urged me to retreat, to protect myself from the inevitable heartache. Yet a part of me craved the truth like it craved air, desperate for understanding. He fumbled for his phone and illuminated the screen, displaying a series of images that made my blood run cold. They were snapshots, grainy and candid, people I recognized from my past intertwined with a network of strangers, all captured in moments that felt tinged with danger. "They're connected to you, Claire." To us, the revelation hung heavy, an immovable weight thrust upon my shoulders, sending icy tendrils of fear skittering down my spine. "What are you talking about?" I demanded, my voice rising as the tension crackled between us. "Who are they?" "People I owe a debt to," he muttered, his brow furrowing with guilt. "People I thought I could handle. But it's gone too far. It involves money, illegal dealings, things you shouldn't be a part of." As his words cascaded around me, a dark pit began to form in my stomach. "You're in trouble again?" That word again felt like a litany of our past missteps playing back through my mind. I always wanted to believe in redemption, in second chances. But what if that hope led to peril instead? "I didn't ask for any of this," he said, his voice shrinking with their weight. "But you're now being watched. They think you know too much." A chill crept down my spine, tightening a noose around my throat as if my breath was being wrested from my lungs. "What? Why?" My mind whirled, images of nights spiraling into chaos flashing before me. I had fought so hard to escape my past, to reclaim my life, but now, it felt like I was being dragged back into its choking embrace. "Because of me, Claire." Mark's eyes bore into mine, a painful plea masked by regret and anxiety. "Because I couldn't let you go. I didn't protect you from the fallout." The night felt airless, as if time itself had paused, holding its breath with me. "You mean all this time I've been unsafe because of you?" My voice cracked, the betrayal biting deeper than I expected. "You couldn't even see the obvious? It was never supposed to involve you." I thought his voice faltered, his vulnerability alarmingly disarming. "I thought I could keep you away from it all. I told you I wanted nothing to do with your mess." I felt the sting of tears, anger, and confusion coursing through me like fire. "So what now? We're tangled in this together." Again, just then, a rustle in the bushes broke through our heated exchange, sending an icy arrow of fear through both of us. We shared a panicked look, the past slamming into the present as we both tensed at the sound. "Someone was watching us, Claire. We need to go. Now." Mark's voice steadied, snapping me to attention as he reached for my hand, the urgency in his grip pulling me from my spiraling thoughts. Without hesitation, I followed his lead. Swift movements took us deeper into the park, away from the shadows filled with unknown danger that threatened to follow. Adrenaline surged through my veins, igniting a fire I thought had long died. The truth floated tantalizingly just out of reach, the darkness thickening around us, but somehow, I felt a burgeoning sense of strength within the chaos. Together, we navigated through the trees, their towering trunks casting long shadows that danced ominously. But as we broke through the dense foliage, the moon cast its light upon an undiscovered path, one that promised the opportunity for both danger and revelation. Just ahead, the path would lead us to something, possibly answers or perhaps more peril. But just as hope flickered in my heart, Mark's grip around my hand tightened painfully, and I felt a strange shiver in the air foreshadowing of choices yet to come. It hit me all at once like a freight train. I was not merely walking toward danger, I was stepping into a tumultuous unfolding that could irrevocably change my life again. And in that moment, a revelation washed over me like cold water. Was Mark truly the source of my turmoil, or was he standing as my only tether to rescue? The heart of the park was frenetic, the rush of our footsteps a rhythmic counterpoint to the quiet rustle of leaves. Each stride felt like a race against the shadows that threatened to engulf us. The exhilaration pulsed in the air, a mix of fear and the thrill of escapade that we had not felt since our childhood, each moment heavy with the weight of what had been and what still could be. "Where do we go?" I panted, breath catching in my throat as I stole a glance back. The dark corners of the park swallowed any hint of pursuers, yet an unease gnawed at my insides, a pervading sense that unseen eyes were upon us. "Keep running," Mark urged, his voice a blend of urgency and comfort. As we veered left onto a narrow path bordered by thickening trees, the shadows lengthened disturbingly. My heart drummed in my chest, each pulse imbuing my body with the will to flee, to fight. The chill in the air prickled my skin, but my thoughts remained tangled in a web spun of disbelief and anger. "Did you really think I could keep pretending?" I snapped, earning a frustrated glance from Mark. The hurt in his eyes struck deeper than I anticipated. It felt like piling rocks onto an already teetering wall. I thought I could protect you." His admission cracked open a wound I hadn't realized had festered. The painful memory of past betrayals clawed back to the surface, each moment painful yet healing somehow. "Claire, I found a life, Mark. A real one. And you thought keeping things from me was protection?" I could feel the swell of bitterness rising, but beneath it lay the raw ache of having missed him more than I cared to admit. "Do you even understand what you've dragged me back into?" "I know, and I'm sorry," he said, slowing to match my pace. "But it's not just about us anymore. I didn't want you to be burdened by my baggage. By the things I owe. I just wanted you to be safe." I stopped, half-heartedly tugging my hand away from his. The warmth of his grip was almost intoxicating, and yet the walls I'd so carefully constructed felt slippery and vulnerable. "And how safe am I now?" I hissed, venomous words lacing my voice. "I didn't mean for any of this," he pleaded, his expression pained, the distance in his eyes echoing a silent plea for understanding. "You have to believe me. It was a misguided attempt to shield you." Silence hovered, thick and almost suffocating. My heart begged for reconciliation, for the sweet balm of the past to wash over us, but logic anchored me in place. The very essence of us had always been intertwined with chaos and uncertainty, and it begged the question, could we ever really come back from this? An unexpected rustle from nearby sent both our heads snapping toward the sound, the remnants of our moment of vulnerability evaporating like mist in daylight. In an instant, we were two souls united in fear, the ghosts of our turbulent memories paling in the face of very real danger. A familiar chill washed over me as I saw a shadow shift amidst the trees. A stranger stepping from the gloom. "Mark," the figure called, the voice slicing through the thudding cacophony in my ears. "I didn't think you'd show, Rob," Mark hissed, tension coiling like a serpent around his words. In that split second, clarity surged through me. The very name elicited an unmistakable dread entwined with past wrongs. My instincts fired off alarms louder than any siren. "Rob? What are you doing here?" My voice steadied, gaining firm resolve as the stranger stepped into the moonlight, revealing a face I had only seen in hushed whispers and half-told stories. "Let's just say I've been keeping an eye on both of you." Rob's smile twisted like a snake unfurling, hypnotic yet sinister. "You've gotten yourself in a bit of a mess, haven't you, Mark?" The resentment throbbing in my chest began to ripple into a flood of confusion and apprehension. With quick glances, I noticed the way Rob's eyes flitted from me to Mark and back again, examining us as if we were pieces on a precariously unbalanced chessboard. "What do you want?" I snapped, summoning whatever bravado I could muster, though the quaking of my heart echoed closely behind. "Let's not make a scene, Claire. I'll just say it's good old-fashioned accountability, and your little rendezvous took a turn for the stop," Mark interjected, stepping protectively in front of me. The sudden shift made my heart race faster, and I felt a surge of something fear, love, anger that caught me off guard. It's not supposed to involve her. None of this is her fault, Rob's laughter echoed, a chilling sound. Oh, it is now, isn't it? You see, she's tangled in it just fine, whether she likes it or not. His gaze narrowed, predatory in nature. What do you think happened the moment I got the call about the operation going south? They want to talk to you, Claire. A dizzying wave of dread washed over me, a realization settling deep within my gut. I was standing on the precipice of something far darker than I could fathom. A world that Mark had desperately tried to shield me from was now forcing me to confront it head-on. Every plan I had made for a life beyond this chaos shattered like glass at my feet. Why? I murmured, more to myself than anyone else. The heavens seemed to shift, stars dimming moments before the truth overshadowed them all. Why would they want to involve me? Because you're the key to his past, Rob said, his amusement sharp like broken shards. And they need closure. The words hung in the air, too heavy to bear. My existence had become entwined in this dark tangle, and I felt as if time itself was tightening its grasp, locking me further into this terrifying reality. The moment of clarity was both liberating and petrifying. Mark's eyes, however, were filled with something different: fear, defiance, and maybe even a glimmer of affection, igniting that flickering hope inside me. You're not going to go anywhere with her, he said with a resolve I didn't know he possessed. I'll figure something out. Just let her go. The low sound of laughter came from Rob, a cruel thread entwined with disbelief. Oh, this isn't your choice anymore. With that, I felt the world tilt dangerously beneath my feet as I stood at the edge of a cliff and the universe around me disintegrated into chaos. The air was thick with unspoken truths and impending disaster. And I realized a choice was being etched into my very soul, one that would either lead me back to safety or lock me in with chains forged from buried secrets. In the cacophony of fear and courage spiraling within me, I had a single thought that cried out against the silence. What was clear and safe felt awfully fleeting, but what lay ahead was shadowed in secrets that began to darken even past the points of no return. Tomorrow held the promise of answers, but tonight, I was once again teetering on the brink, wondering if I was truly ready to embrace the chaos that was Mark's world and the ghosts that loomed ever closer. The night deepened, the shadows stretching as if they wanted to swallow us whole. I stood there, caught between Mark's pleading gaze and Rob's unyielding presence, a trembling heartbeat echoing in my ears. The realization of being entangled in a web of secrets and danger filled my lungs with dread. Each breath felt more cumbersome than the last, anxiety swelled until it felt like it would burst from my chest. Claire, Mark pleaded again, desperation lacing his tone. You don't have to listen to him. We can leave, we can go. And then a memory flashed before me, bright, sunlit face of my younger self, filled with naive dreams and what-if scenarios. A life untouched by shadows. But now, all of it felt remarkably distant, suffocated by uncertainty. Did I even remember how to live without fear? Leave? Rob echoed, amusement dancing on his lips. And run where? The deeper you go into this, the harder it will be to escape. Your house of cards is already collapsing. Mark stepped closer to me, grounding me amidst the swirling chaos. Listen to me, he said softly, his voice earnest and raw. Don't let him get into your head. He wants to break us apart. He'll do whatever it takes to protect you, I swear it. A surge of warmth spread through me at his words, but the storm in my heart roared louder. My life had been built on choosing the right paths, and yet, here I was, also willing to believe the fear that Mark could not save me. The distance I'd created between us now felt like a chasm filled with unspoken doubts. Rob, what do you want? I forced the words past the knot in my throat, trying to clear my head. Just tell me, why me? His smile widened, a sinister brightness in the moonlight that curled my stomach into knots. Because Claire, you represent a piece of his life that he's tried to bury. You're naive enough to think you have a choice, but we both know that's not how this works. The last word hung between us, taunting and menacing, as if it held the very essence of our fates. Mark's jaw tightened, the darkness of his past swirling like a storm cloud overhead. You're wrong. I won't let you hurt her, he intoned with grit, the tension between us crackling in the damp night air. I don't need to hurt her, Mark, Rob said smoothly, stepping forward, his voice velvety and sharp. The authorities will do that for me if you don't play ball. You have an opening in your little game, a way out. Just give me the information I need, and I'll be on my way. No harm to Claire. The gravity of his words settled on my chest, an anchor that threatened to pull me under. I wanted to yell that no one would ever use me as leverage again, that I wouldn't be part of Mark's past. Yet, I felt my resolve wavering, emotions jumbled between anger and a longing to reclaim what had been lost. What information? I asked, my heart pounding. I felt as if clarity was within reach, yet the truth burned like wildfire at the edges of my consciousness. There was more at play here, something hidden beneath layers of betrayal and deception. So the brave one wants to know the game rules. Rob smiled, the delight in his eyes as sharp as glass. Your dear Mark has been playing without a proper lookout for too long now. All we're asking is to help him remember what he thought he forgot. That debt he owes? It could cost him everything. Mark's eyes flickered with anxiety, paralyzing me with uncertainty. In that moment of vulnerability, I felt the remnants of trust had slowly rebuilt beneath layers of hurt fluttering in my heart. Was I truly prepared to face the terrifying reality of what lay ahead? Before I could respond, the night split open with the sound of approaching footsteps, the unmistakable crunch of leaves underfoot. My breath caught as a figure materialized from the woods behind Rob, quickly illuminated by the silver beam of the moonlight. I froze, the breath hitching painfully in my throat. Well, look what we have here, the newcomer drawled, swaggering forward with a smirk that sent shivers down my spine. The familiar contours of a face I once thought was a fading shadow emerged before us, a face that had haunted my past. Olivia. What are you doing here? Mark's voice snapped with sudden intensity, the flicker of anger emerging as an unmistakable wave crashed against the shores of confused fears. I am here for the show, Olivia replied, her tone dripping with sarcasm. I thought it'd be fun to see the legends of the past revive their old stories. After all, Mark, we really can't have you forgetting, can we? Panic coursed through me like ice water. The tension built like a tightening coil ready to snap. Shifting my gaze between Mark, Rob, and Olivia, I felt like a marionette tangled in strings woven by none other than fate, never quite in control. Why are you all here? I whispered, the words barely breaking free from the clutches of my uncertainty. Eyes wide and heart racing, I searched for an answer in the silence that descended, thick and electric. I was wholly trapped in a world that no longer felt like my own, one that beckoned me closer to the precipice of danger and the truth I had been avoiding. A truth that once revealed could reshape everything I thought I knew about Mark, myself, and the frightening path that lay before us. And just when I thought I could grasp the situation, reigning in my heart's wild chaos, Rob spoke, an almost gleeful smirk stretching his lips. Because now all of you are officially out of excuses, and am here to collect. As I stood amidst this treacherous reunion, the world around us felt like a stage set for chaos, where secrets lurked in every shadow. It was suffocating, the air thick with tension, and I knew one thing for sure, I was no longer merely a spectator in this twisted play, I was the main character. Mark, Rob, and now Olivia, their dramatic threads wove together, drawing me deeper into a story far more complex than I'd ever anticipated. Claire, Mark said, his voice grounding me momentarily. There was raw sincerity in those eyes, a flicker of vulnerability that invited me to step closer to the truth. I grasped onto that flicker, inviting it to kindle the hope I was desperately clutching to. We need to get out of here. This isn't safe. Safe? Rob laughed, a chilling sound that danced across the silence like a serpent's hiss. Safety is a relative term, my friend. The only safety is knowing who to trust, and right now, trust is a currency neither of us can afford. I felt as though I were teetering on the edge of a precipice, the ground beneath my feet crumbling away. What do you want from me? I found my voice, sturdy and resolute despite the internal storm raging within. The question hung like a damning bell, echoing through the stillness, daring them to respond. If I needed anything from you, Rob sneered in derision, it would be the truth that would unravel this entire facade Mark has built around you. With a wave of his hand, he gestured toward me, his demeanor utterly contemptuous. This little sweet girl? She doesn't know the storm that's coming. Don't speak about her like that, Rob, Mark said, stepping in front of me, a shield of defiance against the bitter reality unfolding. Claire's life has been nothing but a series of attempts to keep out of the darkness I pulled her into. She doesn't deserve this, yet here we all are. Olivia crossed her arms, her smirk fading into something darker. This is your choice, Mark. Live with the consequences of your past, or let Claire bear the brunt of it. Just remember, you can't have both. A cold realization settled over me, each word chilling my heart deeper into despair. You knew, I breathed, my eyes darting between them, processed everything like a bad dream taking shape. You've all been playing a game I was never meant to be part of. Games are all we've ever known, Claire. Rob leaned closer, his voice dropping, ominous and deliberate. But this is not just some fun twist, this is survival. Either you help us write the conclusion to this tale, or we all vanish into the shadows. The weight of those words hit me like a sledgehammer. My chest tightened as I processed the gravity of the situation. I was now a player in a twisted game of survival, a pawn at a table where everything I'd worked so hard to build could be ripped away in an instant. Every moment I had thought I was digging deeper into the truth was now a precarious dance with disaster. Claire, listen, Mark urged, desperation threaded through his voice. I know it seems perilous, but if there's one thing I've learned, it's that everything leads back to the choices we make and the people we trust. You need to trust me now, but I hesitated. Doubt clawed at my heart, pulling the threads of my trust in every direction, threatening to unravel the connection between us. What if this is just a trick, another one of your schemes to protect me from the truth? I replied, each word slicing through the air like a serrated knife. A part of me wanted to fight against him and the chaos swarming us, but another part felt drawn to the remnants of connection we once shared. Claire, I need you to believe me, he said, his voice raw like an open wound. Everything I did was to protect you. I never wanted any of this. He reached for me, the warmth of his hand tentative against my skin, but I pulled away instinctively. There were so many pieces to fit together, a puzzle daunting in its complexity enough. Rob's violent growl shattered the tension, sending a shiver rippling through me. No more playing the blame game. The time for decisions is up. Why don't you cut to it, Rob? Olivia interjected, her steadiness returning. Tell Claire what she can do to save her precious Mark. You know that's what she wants. The mockery in her voice stung, pricking at the fragile state of my heart. Stop, Mark said sharply, turning to Olivia, pushing past his own fury. The choices we've made have led us here. But Claire deserves to make her choice without manipulation. In that moment, a light flickered in the darkness, drawing me closer. What did I want? The heaviness of Rob's words hung thick in the air, but Mark's plea breathed life into me, feeding the fire that began to flicker in my heart. I felt my conviction rise again, touched by this moment I needed to take hold of. Claire, Mark said, his voice trembling slightly, you have the choice now. We can run together, fight whatever's lurking in the shadows, and get to the bottom of this madness, or you can stay bound to the judgment that has chased you for too long. But if we stay, we risk losing everything, I whispered. I wanted to trust him. I wanted to believe in us again, despite the stain of betrayal smearing the canvas of our history. No, Rob interjected, sly and creeping like a shadow. If you stay, the truth will come out, and your fate is sealed, one way or another. Maybe the truth is what I need, I responded, my voice was steadier than it had been all night. I've spent too long hiding behind your decisions, Mark. Neither choice will be easy, but I won't let you tell me how to navigate my life. I'll find my own way, even if it means facing the darkness of your past. A glimmer of something passed between us, perhaps relief, perhaps fear, but it solidified my resolve. I choose to face it, I said quietly but firmly, pushing past hesitation. There it was, a tentative beam cutting through the uncertainty. I was so caught in the web of their choices for so long, it was time to reclaim the narrative and write it myself. A flash of recognition crossed Mark's face, pride mingling with the tumult of emotions as conflict danced across his features. He was terrified of what lay ahead, but I had thrown the gauntlet. Very well, Rob said, a chilling edge having crystallized in his tone. Let's set the stage. Well, play your game, but know this, the stakes are higher than you think. And I always collect. Before I could respond, an ominous sound echoed from the fringes of the park, a sudden rustle followed by the trembling hush of distant footsteps. The shadows had teeth, and they were closing in. Run, Mark urged, grabbing my arm while dragging me towards the safety of the park's deeper paths. With our hands intertwined, I felt the warm pulse of defiance before dread wrestled at my heart, choking the air between us. In that moment of flight, I knew we were both tied, bound by the weight of unspoken pasts and the uncertainty of what lay ahead. But one thing was clear, I was mine. I wasn't simply a victim in someone else's fallen empire. This was my story now, and I would fight for every breath. As we dashed through the underbrush, laughter and chaos began to dissipate behind us, swallowed by the darkness as I fought to catch my breath. "Hey! Over here!" Someone shouted in the distance, a voice breaking through the cacophony, and something primal urged me to keep running. With pounding hearts and the threat of danger loomed between us and whatever awaited in the shadows, I clung tightly to Mark's hand, ready to face whatever came next. I had forged my decision, and the world unleashed itself before me like a rope tied to freedom. In that unyielding moment of vulnerability and courage, I realized there was no more fear, only the fierce authenticity of my own resolve, determined to face the storm, to embrace the truth, and to unearth the pieces of my life, the fragments I could finally make sense of, all while running toward the only certainty that remained. The truth would reveal itself in time, but until then, I was ready, for I would no longer retreat into the shadows of fear. I would create my own light, come what may.